Hello, everyone. We're just going to wait a couple more minutes for a couple other people to get on. If you know anyone that is missing the webinar, we are recording this, so they can always catch it on our website as well. Okay, we'll wait one more minute.
Sure. Going down to the wire.
Yeah, down
Counting
to the
down.
wire. Okay, let's jump in.
Okay.
Okay, so my name's Jessica.
And I'm Brian.
Today's webinar is going to be about not all MSPs deliver the same service. So can you, Brian, do you want to tell us a little bit, actually, first of all, I don't know if everyone knows about the company, about us, so we'll just go over a little overlay about it.
Sure, that's probably a good idea. We have some new people joining us today. So I'm the founder. Jess is the operations manager here at Automation Concepts. We're 30-year-old and counting company in the greater Boston area. We provide fully managed outsourced IT, MSP, managed service provider. In addition, we have deep roots in security, network security, system security. And, you know, in the past year or so, we're finding a lot of businesses, the cyber threat is really increased, and a lot of businesses, unmanaged systems, untrained users, and that's really become the biggest threat to small companies. And companies just aren't investing enough in system management and user training. So those are what we're seeing as trends in the workplace.
So let's dig into it.
Okay.
Tell us what is an MSP?
Yeah, so MSP stands for Managed Service or Services Provider. Basically, the concept was to rather than to have a client have a system break, have downtime, have somebody rush out there, fix it, charge the client, the old break fix model, we wanted to try to keep the client running as much as possible. And there were a set of tools developed over time. The internet was a huge factor in this because as all things started to get connected to one another, it allowed us to proactively monitor systems and predict failure, detect failure, and automatically repair certain things that were damaged on computers through scripts, open tickets for users. So it really means not waiting for it to break, trying to keep it running all the time, proactively managing it, fixing issues before they become problems. And this was done, I alluded to the tools and technology, rather expensive set of tools and technologies to do this, fairly major investment. And then the biggest thing is standardization on processes, procedures, and particularly on the products that we deliver. So we deliver one brand of firewall. It's sized differently, but the operating system's the same. So our engineers can be really good at one kind of firewall, and every client we have uses that kind of firewall. So we're not guessing from client to client.
So what is the MSP model?
So I alluded to the old model of, you know, break it, fix it. If you're a business owner, you pray that nothing breaks this month. It's a bad month. If we're a computer repair company, we pray that something does break because it's a bad month for us and we need some billing to charge you. So with the MSP, it's a flat monthly rate. So not only is it predictable for us on the income coming in, but the expenses on your side as a business owner are very predictable. And the focus is to keep you running versus fixing you once you break. And a lot of times with the old model, you know, companies would waste a lot of time and money, and these were the hidden costs of trying to keep their technology running. And, you know, it's like technology is like a car. You know, in the old days, and I'm a lot older than you are, but, you know, we'd go to start the car and it would be flooded and you would have starting fluid and you'd open the hood and you'd put a screwdriver in the carburetor and all that other junk. Now you open the hood and you can't even see the engine. You need to be a computer expert to work on your engine. So home repairs on cars have gone down. Same thing with computers, and far more complex. They require special training, special tools. And the break fix model, a business owner would say, oh, don't call the IT guy. It's too expensive. Let's try to fix it ourselves. And really, they just typically cause more damage and made the problem worse. So a lot of wasted time and effort. The MSP model is flat billing. It takes special software to do this predictive hardware failure. Intelligence has to be written in. So when we buy the software, it's kind of a toolkit. We need to tailor it to what we're doing. We need to build intelligence into it through scripts and ways we detect hardware failure and user error and automated remedies that we've built into the software. So we've put a significant amount of intelligence into the software after we bought it. And again, it takes a significant capital investment. So, you know, a mom and pop shop or a one or two guy MSP typically can't make that kind of investment.
So going forward, how do we go through the weeds and tell these people, how do we figure out if they're not MSPs?
Yeah, so, right, so the slide says, yeah, if it doesn't swim like a duck, it might quack like a duck, but if it doesn't swim like a duck. So today, every tech service company is calling themselves an MSP, it seems, because quite frankly, that's what the industry expects, and everybody wants to be an MSP. It would be like me telling you I had a sports car when I have an SUV, because I really want a sports car, but the truth is I have an SUV, a small one. But so calling yourself an MSP doesn't make you an MSP. The sad truth is most of these companies just haven't made the investment. They haven't made the investment in the software. They haven't made the investment in their training. So it takes significant time and money to get there. They don't do the preventative and protective work ahead of time. So we're constantly, our techs, each of them have a set of systems that they're daily, they're scanning. You know, there's no downtime for us. You know, if we're talking to a client and we're totally focused on the client, once we're off the client, our techs have a whole list of tickets that they're working to scan and look for problems on this network, go to the next network, go to the next client. So we are constantly scanning ahead, looking for problems. So, you know, if they're just doing the break fix model and they're selling a block of hours and they haven't adopted this preventative, proactive approach, downtime is still high for the client. The client is still has all the risk, because when I do all covered, give you a flat rate and say, I'm going to take care of everything on your network, I'm assuming all the risk. I'm saying I'll do it for however many dollars. And if I don't keep that network running, it's going to cost me money. So the better the network runs, the less expense I put into keeping the network running, and the more money that we make at the end of the day. If we're doing a lousy job at it or charging the client for every visit out there, then we're not really MSPs. We haven't assumed the risk, and we haven't done anything to really help the client. So you might quack like a duck, but if you don't swim like a duck, you're not really a duck.
Good. So what does the current business owner need to look out for?
Yeah, so if you're looking at an MSP, the first thing, you know, it's just like a CPA or an attorney, except an MSP or an IT person probably has more control over your business than an attorney or a CPA, or more impact. So if you're talking to somebody and they tell you they're an MSP, you know, start asking about the investment they've made. Ask if they are charging for on-site visits or if that's all included. If they're trying to sell you a block of hours, it's like, oh, okay, well, we'll charge you the X number and we'll give you up to 4 hours a month. That doesn't really work, because, you know, your expenses are across the year and you might have no hours in month 1 and then need 8 hours or 12 hours in month 2 or 3. So if they're selling you these blocks of hours, it's not really scalable. It doesn't really address the problem, and they're getting paid for it. So it's really break fix, only prepaying for break fix work. They're probably not doing the security audits. They probably lack experience. They don't give any CIO advice.
So hold on, what's a CIO?
Oh yeah, that's a good question. So CIO is a term that's used in enterprise level companies for the most part. So everybody's heard of a CEO, Chief Executive Officer, and a CFO, which is a Chief Financial Officer. CIO is a Chief Information Officer. So if you think about companies' most valuable assets today, it's the information. So that CIO typically either directs or runs IT, internet techno or the technology in the company. So information technology, IT. So the other terms are CTO. So years ago, I've had this company 30 years, but before I started this company, I had worked as a vice president of information systems, and today I would be considered a CIO or CTO, Chief Technology Officer. And you look at technology in a broad scope. So you need to be aware of the technology that exists today, the stuff that's becoming obsolete, and the stuff that's coming onto the foreground. And then you need to participate at the executive level in the growth of the company to make sure that you're investing in technology at a rate that's going to keep the company competitive, but also have that knowledge available if the company wants to expand, the company's opening a new store, they're looking at new software. So the average small business doesn't have that expertise and could not afford to have that expertise. So we have the expertise on staff, not only myself, but you have expertise, Carlos has expertise, and we're developing, as we grow and you guys are coming up the line, we're all growing that expertise. And we see not one company, but we see hundreds of companies, and we're constantly reading the trade journals. So it's kind of like, it's like a timeshare. So you get to have a share in a CIO by being, one of our clients.
So CIO sounds like he's really the team player in the game, but at an executive level.
Exactly, yeah, and it's something most small businesses can't afford. Even medium-sized businesses can't really afford a good CIO.
So what do we need to look out for, and how do we tell if an MSP is legit?
So the first thing, when we meet with a prospective client, we always do 3 meetings, and it seems excessive, but for us, it's kind of like dating. So I haven't dated in years, but I know you have, and probably the first thing you'd want to do is meet for coffee. Make sure you like each other before you commit to dinner and a movie or something. Yeah. So we usually have a getting to know you meeting, and that make sure we actually like each other, and there's a level of trust. Some people you hit it off with, other people you don't like. Not everybody might like us, and there's actually clients that we walk through their business and it's a horror show, and we don't like them at all. We can't afford to take them on as a client because it's just the risk seems overwhelming. So we have the getting to know you meeting, and the first thing we do at that meeting is we give them our references, and we ask them. They might like us, but we ask them to call our references first. Don't wait till we're 3 weeks into the deal and then they're calling around references to decide if they still like us. Decide up front. Because an MSP can tell you all kinds of things. I can baffle you with all kinds of technical stuff, and it sounds fabulous, but the real answer is, am I delivering what I promise? And that's why references are the key. Find out if that person's delivering what they promised, how long the client's been with them, whether they have a history of delivering long-term. And I think we do. I mean, we've had clients, we just lost a client they were bought by another company, so we lost them through acquisition, and they have been our client for 29 out of the 30 years I've been in business. So we have long-term clients, but there's also 3 elements an MSP needs. It's a practice management tool, and that's a ticketing system. Basically, it's how we keep track of all the problems across all the clients, assign them to engineers, make sure the work's done, track the problems, have a historical tracking of problems on particular machines. There's a remote management tool, an RMM tool, and that is the tool that looks at computers, detects problems, applies patches, software updates and stuff, and keeps the computer secure. And then lastly is a remote access tool. So in the old days, in the break-fix model, you call me up, my system is broken, and I'm like, okay, well, I'm on the other side of the state, I'll be there in an hour or 2, and I drive out there. Nowadays, it's like, okay, and we click 2 clicks with the mouse, and we are taking control of your system. So very key tools. So if they don't own that, if they don't own those tools, and those are very expensive investment, and then building the technology and
just the remote tool just eliminates any downtime.
right? But they have to make the investment. So, and then ask if they charge for on-site visits, because if they're charging for on-site visits, then there's just really a break-fix company, right? And ask if 100% of the hours required for normal business operations are included. And it will vary. I mean, if you're a 24/7 operation, you are going to pay more for nighttime and weekend coverage than you will for an 8x5 company, but that's to be expected. Ask how often they scan systems, do network scans, do security audits, ask if they do dark web scanning to see if your credentials are for sale out on the black market. Ask them if they perform security checks, and then ask them finally, do they include advice on budgets expansion? Basically, that CIO role I was alluding to on the previous slide.
Gotcha. So I guess the biggest takeaway, ask for references.
That's the first thing. Always ask for references, right? Yeah. I mean, you want to have a contractor put a roof on your house if you didn't know who it was, and have somebody vouch for him, right? Mm-hmm. So this is a much bigger thing, because your IT company really has the keys to the kingdom. They control everything. Let's face it. Nowadays, everything is interlinked and so sophisticated. You've got to get the right IT company on the job.
Definitely. So what are some examples of some porous MSPs?
Well, I can tell you what we see, and this slide is kind of a summary of the things we see when we go into a prospective client, and the MSP that they've had hasn't really been performing as an MSP. First thing is we see passwords that are set to never expire. I know users hate to change their passwords, but if you're not changing your password, it's set to never expire. You don't have the proper security rules in place. Not requiring complex passwords, password 123, your dog's name, the brand of car you drive, all those easy to guess things. User accounts with administrator access, that is huge. Everybody and their brother, because the MSP or whoever's doing the IT couldn't figure out how to get a directory shared for everybody on the server. So he made everybody administrator so they could read it. I'm not even an administrator on our own network. So I always say it's like using power tools. If I get out a powerful, a saber saw or circular saw, I get the eye protection, the ear protection. I make sure there's no kids around. I'm not going to trip over the cord. You should have that same elevated sense of awareness when you're working at an administrative level, because you can wipe out the entire system. And if I'm a user and I'm an administrator as well, and somebody compromises my account, they can use my account to wipe out all the systems across the company. So you should be specifically using the administrator account to do administrative tasks that require elevated privileges. You shouldn't be shopping and checking your email. You should log out when you're done and go back to your personal account to do personal work. So we see that all the time. And half those people don't even work for the company anymore. And half those people that don't work for the company anymore actually still have remote access, so they can get into the company files with their old password that never changed, and they haven't been there for 10 years. And people are like, oh, well, I trusted them, they retired, but the password's still out there somewhere, written on a slip of paper, So those are big things. So no firewall in place. They got Comcast or Fios. They've got the box. It's like, well, isn't that a firewall? Not really. It's a modem with a few rules in it, but it's not a firewall. It can't report up to the cloud and share information, and it's not getting updated constantly. And then backups, no verified offsite backup. So, you'll see a USB drive sitting there, and like, that's the backup. They copy their files there. When's the last time you checked it? I don't know. I think the IT guy checks it, and we look, and it hasn't been backed up in 6 months. And then like, well, you have an offsite backup, right? Well, no. Okay, so when the computer room catches on fire, the building burns down, you're going to go out of business then because you've lost all your data. And then finally, no documentation. It's like, how old is the server? And they're rummaging through papers, and like, I don't know. I don't know. What's the password? What's the username? Nothing's written down or available. Now we don't give a lot of documentation to our clients unless they want it, because again, it's a risk if our clients aren't going to care for it. So, but we always make it available if the client wants it. And like the acquisition we just went through with a client that was being acquired, we supplied all that documentation to the new owners with permission of the people selling the company.
So I think you brought up some really good points. Some points that I think some business owners really need to sit down and think about.
Yeah.
At this point, we've wrapped up our slides, so we're going to open up to questions. If anybody has any questions, please put it in your chat box. But in the meantime, I do have a question, Brian. Why do I need to change my password every 90 days? I don't carry any sensitive information on my computer.
I mean, so you may not have anything, on your computer per se. I mean, you do have emails that probably have stuff because clients sometimes email stuff, information that they shouldn't, and we filter out most of that, but you have access to other systems, and they can, if your system isn't protected and it gets malware. One of the things, a piece of malware is called the keylogger, where they can log all the keystrokes on your computer. So now you go to your banking site, and now they've picked up your username and password off your banking site. You could be logging into as an administrator and they could get our administrator password. So all systems need to be up to date, particularly people running Windows 7. That's no longer being patched. We've actually had some clients that say Microsoft is now popping up a window that says this system is no longer being supported and is insecure or something like that. So you have to be up to date. It's actually a Massachusetts state law that any kind of information you have, and it's I think it came out, I thought in like 1999, maybe it was later than that. It was 2007. And it's 201 CMR, Chapter 17. And it says you have to run up-to-date systems. You have to run up-to-date antivirus. You have to do, best effort. But, companies aren't doing that. And they have to do it because they really are liable. If anything happens, the fines are pretty intensive.
So it looks like we don't have any questions, but please reach out to us. You can email us any follow-up questions, give us any suggestions, something that you might want to see in the future, and let us know if this was worthwhile. Obviously, since there wasn't any questions, I guess we did our job correctly.
Knocked it out of the park, right?
Yeah. So we'll keep everything posted on our website, on our event calendar. So look out for any emails on that. And like I said, if you have any questions, please feel free to email us at marketing@atco.com. And we'll see you guys next time.
And this will be published on the website in a few days, and all our other webinars are up there as well at the link that you see there. News A events. Perfect. Something like that. Anyway, Google around there, search it, you'll find it. Or email marketing and we'll send you the link.
There you go.
Okay.
Okay, have a good day, guys.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.